When you think about Indian agriculture, you're talking about a scale that is well, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. This isn't just an industry. We're talking about the very backbone of the nation, the livelihood for hundreds of millions of people. So what does this massive engine of the economy actually look like today? Let's dive in and break down the numbers.
Okay, first up, let's look at this number, 18.6%. What's that? Well, that's how much of India's entire economic output comes directly from agriculture and all the activities related to it. And get this isn't some static number. This huge engine has been growing at a steady clip, averaging nearly 5% growth every single year for the past decade.
So what does that engine produce? A truly staggering 342 million tons of food grains. To really put that into perspective, just think about this. Back in 1950, that number was just over 50 million tons. That's not just growth. That's a complete transformation of the country's ability to feed itself and, frankly, the world.
So, to really understand this incredibly complex story, we're going to look at it from 5 different angles. First, we'll talk about the sheer scale of it all. Then, the hurdles that have been there for a long time. We'll explore the government's evolving toolkit of solutions, see the huge leap from village markets to mobile apps. And finally, we'll look at the safety net that's being built to secure the farmer's future.
As we've just seen, there's no question that India is an agricultural powerhouse. But behind these incredible numbers lies a paradox. Despite all this amazing productivity, the sector has been held back by some really deep-rooted systemic challenges for decades.
So what exactly are these challenges? The sources we're looking at really boil it down to 6 core hurdles that have, for a long time, limited the sector's true potential. And understanding these problems is absolutely key to seeing why all the reforms have been so important.
Okay, so here's the breakdown. A lot of the farmland is divided into these small, fragmented plots, which can be pretty uneconomical. The technology used can be outdated. There's a huge, and I mean huge, dependence on the monsoon rains, which makes every year a bit of a gamble. Plus, a lot of the farming is just for subsistence, just enough to feed the family. Add in a disconnect between the people who own the land and the ones who actually work it, and it all leads to lower productivity overall.
So, in response to all these challenges, the Indian government has developed what you could really call an evolving toolkit, a set of policies and programs built up over more than 70 years, constantly being updated and adapted to try and solve these problems. And this timeline here, it shows that evolution so clearly. It all kicks off back in the 50s with some major land reforms, getting rid of the old zamindar system. Then, bam, the science-driven green revolution hits in the 60s. By the 2000s, the focus shifts to regulating the markets, and now in the modern era, it is all about data-driven farming, efficiency, and building the infrastructure for what happens after the harvest. Let's just zoom in on one of those modern tools for a second. The Soil Health Card Scheme. It's literally a report card for the soil. It analyzes 12 different things to tell a farmer exactly what nutrients their land needs. This is a massive shift from just guesswork to precision agriculture, all aiming for a healthy land, green farm. And to tackle that big problem of depending on the rain, there's a really clear 3-step logic at play here. Step 1 is about being super efficient, per drop, more crop, using things like drip and sprinkler systems. Step 2 is about access, getting water to every single field by finishing up major irrigation projects. And Step 3 is about conservation, managing the entire watershed by protecting traditional water sources. It's a really holistic way of looking at water security. But look, growing a good crop is only half the battle, right? The next, super critical step is getting that produce to market and making sure the farmer actually gets a fair price. And this is where we see a really dramatic shift from the traditional to the digital. Now, what's so interesting here is this stark contrast. The old system, the APMC, was basically a state-run monopoly. Farmers could only sell to specific license holders, which, well, it often led to cartels. The new way, ENAM, creates a single national electronic market. It digitally connects over 1,000 of these markets, or mandis. This means farmers can sell to anyone, anywhere in the country, which creates real competition. And the guiding principle behind this whole new market is pretty simple. Good crop, good reward. The idea is to create a transparent system where the quality of the produce is what directly determines the price a farmer gets, breaking those old monopolies. And this whole digital push doesn't just stop with the markets. There's a whole new digital toolkit being built out. We're talking about AgriStack, which is a public digital infrastructure for smarter farming,
The Namo Drone Didi scheme, which empowers women's groups with high-tech drone rental services, and even super-specific platforms like JuteSmart, which brings transparency to that supply chain. Okay, so we've covered production and we've covered markets. But farming, at its core, is a risky business. That brings us to the final piece of this puzzle, the financial safety net that's designed to protect farmers from all that volatility and, well, from disaster. At the heart of this safety net is the minimum support price, or MSP. The way it works is this. It's basically a price guarantee. The government sets a floor price for 23 different crops, and if the market price ever drops below that floor, the government itself steps in to buy the produce. This protects farmers from a sudden price crash.
And as you can see here, the MSP isn't just about one or two big crops like wheat and rice. It actually covers a really diverse basket of crops: cereals, pulses, oilseeds, even commercial crops. The idea is to encourage agricultural diversity.
So beyond just supporting prices, there's also direct income support. The PN Kisan scheme gives 6,000 rupees directly to eligible farmer families every year, paid out in 3 installments. This gives them a stable, predictable financial cushion, completely separate from how their harvest turns out.
And to protect against natural disasters, there's a comprehensive crop insurance scheme. And this chart just shows you how accessible it is. Farmers pay a really low, uniform premium. We're talking just 2% for summer crops, 1.5% for winter crops, and in return they get coverage that protects them all the way from before sowing to after the harvest.
So what's the real-world impact of all this? Does it actually work? Well, this number offers a pretty powerful clue. Between 2012 and 2019, the average income of a farming household grew by over 68%. Now, sure, a lot of factors are at play there, but that is a clear and very positive trend. And looking ahead, the government is making some huge investments. This 1 lakh crore fund, that's 1 trillion rupees, is dedicated solely to building out post-harvest infrastructure. We're talking warehouses, cold storage, processing units, the whole shebang. This is a long-term plan to cut down on waste and build a really resilient supply chain for the decades ahead. Which brings us right to our final question. We've seen a sector with this 70-year history of policy evolution, and now it's being supercharged with data, with drones, with digital markets. So, is this the moment? Is India on the verge of its next great agricultural revolution? One that's not just about producing more, but about creating sustainable prosperity for its farmers.